Question number 9 has been asked by the Honorable KRJ Meshoe. The Honorable the President.
Honorable Speaker and honorable members, the pledges made by the International Partners Group, comprising of the United States of America, the United Kingdom, France, Germany, and the European Union to support South Africa's just energy transition with around $8.5 billion in financing is on track. In 2022, South Africa formulated the Just Energy Transition Investment Plan, which sets out the scale of investment needed to meet the country's international carbon emissions reduction commitments. The pledges made by the International Partners Group towards this investment are contained in this investment plan that was presented here and published. These pledges consist of a combination of concessional, grants, as well as commercial loans and guarantees as well. Work is underway to have these funds properly deployed. Financing under the Just Energy Transition Investment Plan will not be used for investment in coal-fired power stations. International climate financing is for investments that transition economies away from the use of fossil fuels. The bulk of the financing is for the energy sector, including the decommissioning of those power stations that have reached the end of their life. It is also for repurposing and repowering of identified coal power stations in line with South Africa's decommissioning schedule. It also includes support for new generation capacity, investments in the transmission grid, and strengthening the distribution network. Importantly, funds have been allocated to just transition interventions that will support vulnerable workers, reskill, train, and provide new diversified economic opportunities and jobs for workers and communities affected by the transition. Now, a number of role players are in the course of dotting the I's, crossing the T's in relation to all this. And a number of interventions are now underway to ensure that this plan is actualized. I thank you, Honorable Speaker.
Thank you, Honorable the President. The first supplementary question will be asked by the Honorable KRJ Meshoe.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. Honorable President, a number of European countries are buying coal from South Africa, while we lack coal that is clean and that can be used to power our generators. And there are some that have postponed their scheduled closures of their coal power plants. This, while South Africa is steaming ahead with decommissioning our coal power plants to appease leaders that are disregarding the devastating effects of load shedding on local businesses and costing our economy thousands of jobs that also leads to poverty. My question to you, Mr. President, is whether you know any European country that has been coerced or instructed to transition much quicker. And for me, the word much quicker is telling, much quicker from relying on coal plants, or did South Africa volunteer to take that risk that we believe will have devastating effects on our economy? We know that China, that is by far the largest coal consuming country, accounts for 53% of global demand. And India is the second coal-consuming country, are they also being told to transition much quicker, as South Africa has been told to transition much quicker? Thank you.
Thank you, Honorable Meshoe. The Honorable, the President.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. Honorable Meshoe, we were not told. No, we were not told.
Thank you.
What the process we've been involved in,
Now you can talk, because now I can listen.
we have been involved in an inclusive process, and it did not start a year or 2 years ago. We are a participant in various international initiatives, starting from the United Nations, culminating in the various Conference of Parties, COPs, started with COP 20, 21, 26, and all that. Of our own volition, we then said as a nation, climate change is a reality, and we see its devastating impact. We, like other nations, have to make our own decision and contribution to ensuring that we lower climate change. And we came out with our own national determination. Even before I set up the Presidential Climate Commission, processes were underway, led by a variety of South Africans as well, non-governmental organizations, and even this whole parliament was also in the various committees involved in discussions. But let me tell you another concern. We are the biggest emitter on the continent. We are obviously the biggest and the most industrialized nation, but we are the biggest emitter. And more than 80% of our energy emanates from fossil fuels. So as we emit all these fumes,
Honorable Volmarans, will you mute your system? Proceed, Honorable President.
thank you very much. Honorable Meshoe, 2-3 weeks ago, I had the occasion to listen to experts at the Presidential Climate Change Commission. And a professor in health and various respiratory diseases told us the impact of emissions is having on the health of a number of...
No, Honorable Member, please take him off. Will you please remove Honorable Volmarans from the system? Order. Maniman, order. Honorable the President, proceed.
I thought for a minute, Honorable Speaker, that you wanted me to dance. So this professor was telling us about the impact of the emissions and the way they are affecting the health of South Africans. And that in many ways brought home the message about climate change and our contribution. And it's a matter that we may think that we should not care about, but when you begin to think about the many South Africans who are either dying and suffering from various diseases rather, of a respiratory nature, and they then ascribe it to the emissions, we have to sit up and take notice. But apart from that, we have never been compelled to take the decisions that we have taken. We took these decisions on our own volition. But having done so, we have also said we are going to proceed to cleaner energy, And we will do it at our that we will do it at our own pace and at our own time. What we've also said now recently, and this has been starkly put forward to us by Minister Ramokgopa, who in his very good diagnostic work, having gone to all our power stations, came up with a very clear message that the process of installing the renewables that we are working on is going to take quite a longish time. And in the course of doing so, we should also look at the timetable of the decommissioning process. And Honorable Meshoe, decommissioning is something that we cannot run away from, because power stations have a life cycle. There is no power station that will go on for 50 years and 100 years. Even the one that you think can go on beyond 50 years, you have to keep on repairing it, and the cost of repairing that power station may in the end be much bigger than the cost of getting renewables. And as it ages, its capability and ability to generate power starts decreasing. And we are saying the timetable and the schedule for doing so has to be relooked. And Minister Ramokgopa has come up with a very convincing story, which is now leading us to saying, let us relook at the whole process of decommission without abandoning our commitment to move to cleaner energy. So we have to do both in tandem, and nobody is forcing us to speed up the process, because when these power stations age, Honorable Meshoe, they age and they become, it's like an old car. An old car becomes a guzzler, like old people. becomes a guzzler, and it becomes more and more difficult for you to operate it. So nobody is compelling us to speed up that process, and we are saying we are taking our own conditions and circumstances into account. And even those partners, we are making it very clear to them that in the end, the jet plan has to take into account our own situation. And we've got to secure our energy security throughout that whole process. So we will do what we as South Africans have to do. What they do in Europe, Honorable Meshoe, is their business. We look at ourselves because we are a sovereign nation. We must look at our own interests, not at the interests of Europe and other countries. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Honorable the President.